Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Five-1 Speedway Show. Hopefully you've enjoyed and managed to catch up with all the other episodes we've done so far with some famous guys throughout the sport. And obviously we had a catch up again with Chris Lewin in another episode, which was really, really good. So hopefully you've managed to catch up with all that one. Tonight, my guest is an absolute England legend with over 100 caps for England. I don't know how many exactly, maybe this guy will know. But he's also been a World Pairs champion, a World Team Cup champion. He's an absolute legend with Belle Vue, both as a rider and promoter. Him and David Gordon were the brains behind the new National Speedway Stadium. So hopefully we get a chance to talk about that as well tonight. So please welcome to the show, Chris Morton.
Thanks very much now. Looking forward to it.
Good, mate. No problem. So how have you been? Has everything been good? Obviously, pandemic year and everything, not been fantastic for everybody.
Yeah, it's been a strange 12 months on it for everyone. It was about just around this time, wasn't it, last year when we went into the first lockdown. I just got back actually off holiday, and we knew it was kicking off. In fact, at the airport, everybody was starting to wear masks. I was on my way back, like last March, end of February, and so I think we've all lived in strange times, haven't we? I mean, I've been very fortunate. My family has and everything. We've not suffered anything from it. So. Looking forward to it all opening up again.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can go back to a new normal, shall we say, which is going to be on the course.
Like.
Yeah, whether that's wearing masks or whatever in the future, but yeah, fingers crossed, because obviously with this roadmap being laid out, Speedway's got a chance of coming back to England. Obviously, missing out the whole of last year was obviously devastating. Yeah. But did you manage to watch any of the stuff from Poland or the Grand Prix or anything last year?
I followed the Grand Prix, and I thought the way they had to do the Grand Prix, I thought was actually a benefit to it, doing it over the two days. I thought that worked really well, and it was a great series. I enjoyed it. Bit of a Bartos fan as well. I think he is exceptional. As are a lot of the top guys in the Grand Prix. I think there's some brilliant rides there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to that sort of thing, being a Speedway historian, collector, I've got so many things on DVD, books and everything. That sort of thing always reminded me when they first announced it was that 87 final, which you were part of in Amsterdam. So you can maybe kind of have an idea of how the riders would feel in that sort of situation.
Yeah, so the overnight, I mean, I think we saw it in a couple of the meetings where there was a change where riders probably give themselves a bit of a kick up the bum and got their act together for the second meeting. But they just had a new dimension to it. I mean, I don't think it was a negative. I thought it was a positive twist on it. I'm sure they'll just go back to how they were. But I just thought it was an interesting concept, forced on us all, and it was no detriment to the final, or to the series.
No, like I say, it's probably a welcome change, just to make it a bit fresher and everything. Okay, they've done well, like you said, with the pandemic and everything, but then also, obviously, the English interest was good for Ty. He had a better season this year, obviously, and also looking away from the Grand Prix, the young English kids, likes of Tom Brennan, Jason Edwards, Drew Kemp, Anders Rowe, all managed to get sort of rides on the continent. So that must sort of
and that's really important for them, to be getting those, the different scenes. I certainly remember from my early days going to Poland, go to Sweden on these Young England or Young Brits series, and it was such a great way of learning fast, because the whole scenario feels different. The tracks are different. They look like something some of the tracks will look familiar, but they all ride so differently, and learning all about that is quite important.
Yeah, obviously the different race surfaces, and obviously, like I say, shapes and sizes. Obviously, when you were riding, England was the place to be. Because obviously you had the big Hyde Road, and then obviously you come from my neck of the woods, which is Eastbourne. Chalk and cheese a little bit.
So I was used to. I wouldn't say I dreaded it, but for me, it was Belle Vue on a Saturday, and when we were at Eastbourne, it was on the Sunday. So going from Belle Vue and then changing everything on Sunday morning, going to to such a smaller track at Eastbourne, it took a couple of races for me to get my hand in, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine it was, because I've got scores of when Eastbourne came to Belle Vue. I think one of them was like 64-18 or something like that. You absolutely was sort of whitewashed and sort of thing, I don't think Eastbourne ever did that to Belle Vue at Eastbourne, not quite that much.
Probably not, but I don't think we would rarely have won at Eastbourne because Eastbourne were quite formidable at home. But it was always a challenge that I enjoyed it because it was such a different sort of track to my home track.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, going back to the start of your career and everything, talking to your brother Dave, obviously in the previous show on here, he's basically said that you guys grew up on the grass tracks in the north and basically started your careers that way.
Yeah, that's right. We, during that period, there was quite a lot of motorcycling that was around our area. With Alton Park is close by for us. Used to go to the odd meeting at Alton Park. Used to go and watch scrambling as well, or motocross as it's called now. It used to be called scrambling. So, and local tracks at Nantwich, there was often meetings on there. But our love was speedway really, and so the grass track meetings were the big thing for us that we really enjoyed, and got a lot of inspiration for the likes of of Chris Pusey, who was the local hero. I'd seen him on a Saturday riding at Belle Vue, and then going and watching him at a grass track meeting locally was. Wouldn't realise at the time, but that was quite a fortunate thing for us to be able to go and see him doing his thing at the grass track meetings and just beating all the grass track lads.
Yeah, because obviously back then, like the Speedway boys did the grass track on the Sundays and things like that.
Yeah.
I know, again, from looking back in history and things like that, the hotspots were, like I said, in the north, like down here in Sussex and Kent. We had the majors, you had yourself, Jessup, everyone like that all came down to do it on the Sunday afternoon and things like that. So they must have been good days, and really, as a Speedway rider, both at the start of your career and during, and probably just towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, some of the more local lads for you, like Graham Hurry was big in the during that period. But he was a real grass tracker, and he was. If you could beat Graham, then you were making some progress.
Yeah, that's always good to have, like a someone you can sort of aim and think, yeah, if I beat him, that's it, I'm doing well.
Yeah, you're sort of on your way,
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, when did you sort of then first start riding speedway then?
It was more or less sort of straight away, because I was I've admitted this before, so I'm not going to get myself in any more trouble than I have been. But I was because my birthday's in the July. I was the first grass track season for me, because I hadn't done any. We didn't come from the junior grass track. We just used to ride bikes on the fields, and so the first type of racing that I got to was only ever going to be grass tracking and the local grass tracks. And so me and my brother were the first grass track meeting, and was local for me at just near Warrington. And I was actually only 15 at the time. I'd got my licence by saying that my birthday was in March, and this first meeting was later in March. And so I was 15 when I 15 and a half really, I suppose, but became legal halfway through the season. But that was my first season really, was grass tracking with the odd speedway meeting. That was in 1972. And then you probably know it's from the dates that my first season of speedway was 1973. So I was grass track racing in 72 as a 16-16-year-old.
Don't worry, you're not the first person to admit that sort of thing on the show.
Sure.
Yeah, there's been a few other boys who have said that, which have been quite interesting actually. And fingers crossed that never got me in any trouble. But
well, it just seemed ridiculous to be waiting, 4 months or so, and obviously my dad okayed it, so it seemed all right to me.
Yeah, as long as your dad's all right with it, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's what matters. But obviously after that, then obviously season of grass track and things like that, you managed to sign for Ellesmere Port in
Yeah.
'73, and also when I was researching yourself, you did also rode with Belle Vue in '73 as well. It must have been like an on sort of thing.
Yes. The effectively the history of that is that during the 72-73 winter, I was doing the training schools at Belle Vue that Dent Oliver was running, and during that time there was some interest from Jim Rawlinson. I don't know if it's a name that you know, but he was the guy that supplied a lot of the grass track bikes for Chris Pusey when he won the British Championships. That was on Jim Rawlinson's bikes. They then went on to Peter Collins. He used them, and then later I was fortunate to use them. And he used to supply a lot of bikes. He was a local garage owner in Frodsham, and he had a stable of bikes that he used to loan out to different riders that he thought had a bit of talent. And I know that Jim was he was an influence to Dent Oliver and got Dent to sign me for Belle Vue, and that was during the winter of '72. And during that time, I rode also in the training schools. And so at the start of the '73 season, although I was still doing, second halves basically, but I think within a month of starting the season, I was enrolled into the Ellesmere Port team, and then, which for me it always was a stepping stone, because the time for Belle Vue anyway, and the big thing I wanted to do was ride for Belle Vue, and so I think it was in June. The first meeting was an away meeting, so I'd done a couple of months with Ellesmere Port, did the rest of the season with Ellesmere Port, but then I was doubling up from about the middle of June, I think it was. I don't know the date of the first meeting, but it was at Cradley Heath. Scored 6 points. I scored better in what was then First Division, so I scored better for Belle Vue than the did for Ellesmere Port, to be honest.
Yeah, but obviously, you're riding in with the top of the top, really, aren't you? Then, it's probably a case of more of anything sink or swim, really.
Yeah,
that first year.
Great opportunity, and away we went, and I never looked back. Really, that was great.
No, exactly, and of course, then you had the likes of PC in the team. Then, Alan Wilkinson in the team then?
Wilkie was in it. Yeah. Probably Paul Tyra. Who else would be in it? Certainly also Soren would be in it. Soren suggested.
Yeah, so obviously great names to be riding with. At the age of 16, to look up to all these guys and think, well, I can actually get here now.
Yeah, and that was because really the two riders that influenced me as a kid, as in they were the ones that I looked up to, was Soren Suggestion and Chris Pusey. And so I ended up riding with both of them, which was, it's great for a teenager, but as a teenager, you take it in your stride, straight to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but obviously, to ride with your heroes, amazing thing to do. And then obviously at your favourite track, Belle Vue, do you remember much of your first home meeting?
I don't. I remember the Cradley meeting, I remember, because that was the first meeting. No. I'd love to be able to say, this happened. No, I'd be guessing.
But I can imagine that the crowd was absolutely huge and things like that.
It would have been.
For like a youngster like yourself then at that time, it must have been a huge thing to take in. All these people, I don't know how much Hydro could take capacity-wise, but it was quite a lot from what I've seen in the videos.
The capacity would be 20,000, but I think the crowds had probably gone down to about 10 or 8 by then anyway. But even so, it's still... it was still pretty good, but it's funny because without the risk of sounding a little bit big-headed, but I knew what I was doing and where I was going, and this was just, I wasn't daunted by any of it. I just got on and did the best I could do. That was really all I was looking to do.
Yeah, and obviously then, the schools all came in and things like that. And obviously as the season goes on, doubling up, doing the world of good, and things like that. But obviously that year you managed to win the Knockout Cup as well. Yes, we did. And there was a bit of a story with that. Just going back a little bit to the reason I got my opportunity for Belle Vue was Chris Pusey he was in the team that year. His last year, I think, in the team. He got injured, and that's how I got my chance.
Came in at reserve. I don't know if I came in at reserve. I think I had to be in the team because of the way the setup was. But that was why I got in. So it was thanks to poor old Chris getting injured, which got me in.
It was unfortunate.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen. There's a photograph of us where we win the knockout cup.
I've seen it, yeah.
And I seem to remember that I scored a point at Reading, but on that I think I got a gifted point in the meeting. No, not scored, and I was because I'd had quite a good season with Belle Vue, and the big meeting. Although we won over the 2 legs, we won it anyway. But it seemed I was so disappointed. I was gutted that I didn't feel I deserved my place, really, because I didn't. I don't think I added anything to the management without me. That's for sure. so yeah, you can see it on the photograph. I'm like gutted. I rode so badly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because obviously as a rider you always want to do 110% every meeting you ride in and everything. Of course, cup final day is the day that you want to do it all on. But but wasn't that the famous Mitchell Collins runoff?
Yes, it was. Yeah,
it was that one. Yeah. Yeah, do you remember much about it at all, or
I'd have been stood in the where the I kind of vaguely remember, but you see so many pictures and things, you don't know whether it's you remember it happening. But so I watched the whole race, and I'd have been stood in the riders' enclosure watching it. Quite a race, really.
Yeah, I can imagine it was quite a race because the reports I've read and everything, heard and everything, it sounded like a bloody good race.
It was, yeah. But unfortunately, it wasn't filmed.
No, but obviously, Hyde Ride obviously lent itself to superb racing anyway. No matter what you saw, wherever you saw it, was a great racetrack. Yeah,
and that was it. And Mitch was a class act as well. And so between the two of them, but PC got the last pass and got to the line first. So
I can imagine you guys just ran onto the track absolutely celebrating and throwing PC in the air and things like that.
It will have been, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously then in 74 you managed to win the British Under-21 Championship.
I had 74 was a good season for me. I mean, because I'd learned quite a bit in 73 in at the deep end type of stuff, which was fine for me. But something happened because I was then on Jim Rollins on the grass track. I was riding Jim Rollinson's bikes, and he had a lot of Japs, and he wanted me to try out a new Jap engine that was trying to compete with the Jawas. Jawas were taken over by then, and it was Jap's last attempt to compete with Jawa, and it was some of your more technical people will know this, but it was the Jap 4S, which was the short stroke Jap, and that season I was riding them, and they were fast and brilliant. Helped me win 2 meetings, the British Junior Championship and also the Peter Craven meeting. And that was on the 4S Jap. But unfortunately, the conrods kept breaking on them, the alloy conrods, and the number of engines I just smashed to pieces. It's like, I'd have to phone Jim up and say, another one's gone, Jim. And it was devastation as well. I don't know if you've ever seen an engine where the conrods broke.
Yeah, I've had that, yeah.
Yeah, well, and the number of times, it just doesn't just smash the crankcases, it smashes the barrel, smashes the magneto usually, and so it was horrendous. The only thing you get out of it, if you're lucky, is probably the magneto. It hasn't smashed that. But and it was such a shame because it was a good engine, but so they were unpredictable, the conrods. You put a new one in, and even that could go. So it wasn't about when you change them; it was just a flaw in them. But they never. I don't know whether they had the energy in the end to get over that problem. So at the end of that season, I was going to, because they were going to try and develop them and get them to work. And so forgive me for the people who've heard this story before, but in fact, something was written about it in the Star a couple of months ago. But during the winter, my first winter in Australia, which was 74, 75, Jim Rawlinson had been discussing with George Greenwood, who ran the Jap agency, and he wanted to develop a cylinder head, a special cylinder head that would make it quicker. A special design, got a head off George Greenwood. Jim spent the whole of the winter working with this head, changing the angle of the valves on it. And so I come back from Australia, having probably learnt a hell of a lot about Speedway during that 4 months. It was a great learning curve for me. Anyway, I come back. Jim says, I've got this new engine we're going to try, and I go to the training school, put it in, and we agreed we'd just give it a bit of a run round and then give it a full 4 laps. So I set off to do the 4 laps, and it's like a rocket machine. It really is a good thing. And then the conrod breaks, and it smashed the engine to pieces, and it did all the usual stuff that it does, because the conrods were breaking right at the top. So it was like and I was horrified at it, especially. And then I looking at it, and the only thing you ever used to get out of them would be the cylinder head and the magneto. That's all that's left in the end. And I look at this brand new engine. It done 7 laps. And I look at it, and the cylinder head had cracked through the ports, so it smashed the head to pieces as well. The piston coming up had split the cylinder head. So that was horrendous, really. They'd worked on it all winter. Special engine.
Yeah.
I don't think Jim really got over that. That was hard to take. I had to tell him that because he was very philosophical about the conrods breaking. But then when I told him the head had smashed, he was like, the silence was pretty clear where he was with it. Anyway, so that was really the end of the Jap era. So I was 75. I was on to Jawas. So.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting to hear that sort of thing, because obviously I didn't even know that sort of thing. Because I thought once sort of like the turn of the Jawas came into the league and things like that, that was sort of like the end of the Jap. Nobody sort of really
it sort of was, yeah. But Mike Broadbanks was using. There was about 2 or 3 of us that were using these Japs to develop it, but it never got that chance, because and they were quick. It was a great engine. So it won a few meetings for me, so but it was obviously competitive. Yeah,
which is unfortunately it was so unreliable, like you said, with breaking pistons and conrods and everything else in between. And when an engine goes like that with the conrod, trust me, I know. I managed to slice a Jawa in half nearly when I did mine.
Yeah, you know what it's like. It's quite horrendous. I mean, there is that famous picture of a GM. I think it's Rick Miller's actually out of the bike as he's still going along. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. That's one of the most amazing photos in Speedway, I think, seeing an engine behind you, but you're still going forward. But it's incredible. And obviously, but how did that sort of 74, 75 off-season Australia go for yourself? Was it a great experience then for yourself?
Yeah, it was just so fortunate. At 18 to go to Australia and experience the whole new world, really, because I'd lived in Manchester area all my life up to then, and then I get the chance to go to Australia, and that was just brilliant. Made the most of it, had a good time, learnt a lot from some talented guys that were on the tour. Eric Broadbelt was there. There was Bowie was actually, Nigel Beacroft was the captain. Reg Wilson, Doug Wire, all guys that were sort of 10 years ahead of me, So I learned a lot from them. It's really good.
Yeah, I can imagine all the good and bad habits you learnt as well whilst you were there with some of those boys.
No,
No, no, fair enough, fair enough. But no, I mean,
yeah.
it's obviously, like I say, 18 years old, getting a chance to go and basically ride
Oh, yeah.
all year round, near enough. And
Yeah.
so what tracks were you riding at then?
Brisbane, Sydney. I mean, the famous Sydney Showground. That was interesting for the first time I walked around that, because walking around with the team, and Nigel would be telling you so and so got killed here, so got killed there. Horrendous, really, because it was a dangerous track, a concrete fence.
Yeah,
no air fences there.
No.
It was it was but a great sort of track. But so there were a lot of them big tracks. But yeah, the Newcastle. Can't remember them all.
No, that's fair enough.
Most of the big places. We didn't go to Melbourne. Auckland, rode at Auckland, Rowley Park, Perth as well. That was some good stuff.
Yeah,
and you just learn so much, in that, because it's during that period from when you're first starting. I'd probably done. Yeah, that was. I hadn't even done. That was the end of my first full season. I hadn't even done it. So for me to be off to Australia, and it was the thing to do, and it worked perfectly for me.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I can imagine rolling into 75 season, you were fresh, ready to go, and buzzing for the season to start, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear. I mean, obviously, again, 75 was probably a good steady learning year for yourself. I think the team, I think you picked up again the Knockout Cup in 75, which was obviously again a good one for the team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're always pretty good in the Knockout Cup. It was something that we didn't seem to have not managed to win the league enough, but Knockout Cup we always seem to be quite often got to the final. It was. We're just going back to because on the engine development stuff, that period 74 through to probably 76 or halfway through 76. That was the change from 2 valves to 4 valve. That was really when it was all happening. I know Doug Wire, I don't know if you've ever heard of an ERM.
Yeah, I've heard of them,
yeah, ERM. Well, Doug Wire had one of those in Australia, and he was like unbeatable, to be honest. And most of us still on the 2 valves. The following year, I think I had my best 2 valve engine, but most of the guys had they were on Westlakes by then, so it changed quite quickly.
Yeah, I can imagine it did, because obviously at that time, you still had the street conversion and things like that, still floating around and stuff like that. But did you notice much of a difference then when you swapped to Westlakes and things like that? Then in the end, yeah,
massive difference. The power was that power that you were always looking for on the 2 valves. It was there. It kind of narrowed the gap on equipment, I think, because they were consistently good off the shelf. Which was the key, really. Yeah. Once they got the cams right and they had them working as well as they then became. Yeah, it was only a short development really period. Within 12 months, they were a competitive engine.
Yeah, because I think there was a lot of test pilots during the year. Because I think John Louis was one of the first ones to get the Westlake, and obviously then he started doing well, winning meetings. I think he won the British final on one and things like that. And of course, there's you guys in the pits thinking, well, maybe we should look into this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But then obviously sticking with Westlakes and things like that, you managed to make a huge stride, I think, in 76. And things like that, because you managed to sort of, we're still with the aces and probably near the top of the averages, battling out with PC at this sort of time probably, was the fact that you managed to sort of make your first world final.
First world final, yeah, that's right. It was because the previous year I'd done the British final and I got about 5 points, I think. So I understood the British final, and at that time there was it was only the top 4 went through to the Intercontinental final. And so 4 or 5. So it was always a tough meeting, the British final. And so in 76 on the Westlake, so having a good season. And I think I'd run second to Simo at the the big Wimbledon meeting, the International, just I think it's the week before the British final, and I was second to Simo, and then in the British final I was second to Simo, so he won the British final, and then that took us on to Wembley for the Intercontinental final, where I scored 10 points, got me through to my first world final, which was. I was kind of on a crest of a wave, really, because I'm not saying it wasn't expected, because it's clear that was what I was trying to do, but it happened, and from going within 12-month development for me was kind of pretty steep.
So what are your sort of memories of riding in that first world final? Because obviously we see the video and everything of the whole meeting, and obviously the crowds were huge and things like that, and probably going crazy. But what was it like to ride in that atmosphere?
Unbelievable. It's like, I mean, at the times we had Wembley, which was full, which was an incredible experience. Going to Poland and dealing with I mean, I've been to Poland on a few tours anyway, so that wasn't that new to me, but the crowds there and their absolute love of the sport. I think there was 100,000 people at the world final. It was incredible, right up into the sky, because there's no covers on it. You got people standing at the top, at the back, and it was full. I made a bit of a mistake of thinking, well, I've got to the world final, just go on, I'm going to enjoy it for the experience. Whereas I should have had a more more direct approach to it. But I enjoyed the experience; it was great, and I got 5 points, which for the way I was riding in the season, I should have done better than that. But that's what it was. I was 19, kid really.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, then take the whole atmosphere in, the occasion, everything. Of course, you got the experience of Major in the final. Although that was the year that Ollie missed out on the final, being defending world champion.
He went out,
at Wembley. Yeah. I've got actually.
Surprised, because it was his hunting ground, really, but.
Yeah, exactly. I've actually got a clip of yourself winning your one and only race at the Intercontinental final. Which I think you can see sort of here.
Yes.
And you're coming off of gate number 1 here, with Ivan Major as well. So, what do you sort of remember this sort of race?
Oh, like I said, at the time I was on the crest of the wave, and to, huge respect for Ivan, but to find myself in a position where I thought I can pass him here. Can do this, and it was, and I was probably riding the track a little bit different to how it had been ridden over the previous years, finding that there was some grip and some dirt, and allowed me to do my stuff, and away I went, never looked back. I might have just had a bit of a look, see Ivan. It was, I mean, it was a great meeting for me. It went extremely well.
Yeah, because I think if a few other results went your way a little bit, you could have even won the thing, because it was that close.
I probably could have done, I messed up one of the races, really. The PC, probably that's how PC won it, because I'd made a reasonable start, but Ollie and PC got around me. So
still, to win a race at Wembley, you must have been brilliant.
That was and that's why it was such a. Because of the way that meeting had gone for me at Wembley, it was a big disappointment for me in '82 when I only got, I think I got 5 or 6 points in the 81 wheel final.
Yeah, because obviously that was obviously the Pennell final and things like that. And I can imagine that you were thinking that you yourself stood a good chance at doing well there.
Yeah, I mean, I was in form, was pretty good. I think I'd been. I think it was, I don't know if it was this year, but that year, but I think I've been second to Dave Jessup in the Intercontinental. So I was the form was good enough. It just wasn't on that day.
It's just unfortunate, really. But obviously, previous to that and everything, you managed to win another individual meeting, which was the Grand Prix, the Volkswagen Grand Prix in '78, which as a guy who wasn't around that time, looking at it, I would never understand the point scoring system for those meetings to get into. Yeah, because it's a bit different, obviously, the Grand Prix series now, but obviously back then it was again slightly different.
What they did was, I think they tried to make the fight, because there was about, I think you had three of the let's say qualified, 3 Grand Prix at different tracks. How many there was, I can't remember. But I know, I think each rider had to do at least 3. So we did 3. You generate points from those, and the points were, I think it was 25, I think. It doubled up for the final. I think you got 25 for a win, winning the meeting, and so on down. Then in the final, it was 50 points for the winner of the meeting. And it went down accordingly, because I don't think I won the meeting, but I'd scored enough.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Or it was the other way around, or I won the meeting, which meant that even though I was behind, I think Simo was leading it all. He was ahead, but yeah, anyway, I wasn't arguing with that. I'd won it.
No, exactly. And another trophy on the mantelpiece as well. Because the final, I think, was at White City that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It's another big fast track.
I love there with the place. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had a few good results at White City in your
career. I liked it. That was good.
Yeah, that's good. Then.
Sort of track. It was always it delivered. You know, if you had the if you're bold enough, it would repay you well.
Exactly. And of course, again, coming from the big high road, it was kind of like a home away from home. Apart from difference is it was dead flat compared to.
It was, yeah. It was funny because it didn't look like it'd be a good racetrack, but I think it was about the way that the dirt was. There's always a bit of dirt in the right place, you know. It wasn't heavy or difficult to ride. Very often it'd be slick, but there would be the odd place where you could get that bit of grip, and it's just about searching for it and knowing where it was.
Yeah, and obviously a few times you managed to win the big meetings, you found the dirt, found the grip, and found the lines and everything the way you went, sort of thing. But obviously during this time and everything, again, Belle Vue, it became sort of like yourself and PC then spearheading the team to league and cup success then after the sort of like the mid-70s.
Yeah, we were. I mean, it was my target was always to try and beat PC, and the average I could get in the BLRC, but that he always used to pit me. But we were both running at 9.5 average, which was pretty good at the time. And I think we kind of fed off each other. So yeah, those were great times for us at Belle Vue.
Yeah, I can imagine it well. Of course, like I say, the crowds coming in, and obviously, unfortunately, I don't think the team won much really league-wise. I think it wasn't until '82 you guys won the league and things like that. But leading up to that, I think your best, I think anyway, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but your 1980 season seems to be like the best year that you had in the sport, really.
Yeah, it was. It was great season for me. A lot of open meetings I won. Good. Probably did about 110, 120 meetings around Europe and the UK. It was, and that's why for me that was a platform to then take off for a good 81, which didn't happen. But because I had quite not a bad meeting at Gothenburg in the final, but my first 2 rides just weren't. It's my second ride really that screwed it up for me, because I'd come second to Jan Anderson in my first ride. Knew it was quick enough because I just couldn't quite get him, and nearly passed him. Shut off when I was nearly going to pass him. Thought it was the end of the race, which wasn't great. I don't know if you've seen that race, but I got alongside him and then shut off, which was. But hey, that's these things happen.
Yeah, they do. They do. Trust me, mate, they do know that. But I've also got a clip from you riding in the Middle East.
Well,
it's not you. It's a newsreel, so you're in it, but it's obviously other bits and pieces in there. It's when I think it was back in. This is back in '78. I think it is. Which again, it's interesting to see, because obviously this would never happen, I don't think, nowadays. And stuff like that. But what are your sort of memories of it? Because I know Dave touched on this beforehand, and I didn't have the footage ready at the time. But for yourself, what do you remember of these sort of things?
Yeah, it's one of those great experiences. You know, it was there was no all the lads were paid, fixed amount. We were all paid the same amount of money, and we just went there to. It was demonstration stuff, you know. But having said that, there was a championship thing to go on. I think if this is 78, it's the first year, which was we were just in Q8.
Yeah.
And the following year we went to Q8, Abu Dhabi and Cairo. Oh, Dave Lanning there.
Yeah, go Dave.
Reg. Yeah, it was just a great experience. I don't know if David talked about the meeting in Abu Dhabi that was on tarmac.
Oh yeah, he did mention about that. Yeah.
That was a moment for us. Yeah, because it was unrideable. We couldn't ride on it, you know. They'd set the thing up and everything. When we walk out there, we're looking at each other thinking, "This can't ride to be fair on this. It doesn't work."
Yeah.
And so what did we threw sand onto the surface.
That's it. Yeah,
to make it so we could slide. But we'd all agreed that we couldn't race. It was too dangerous to try and race in it. So we just did a demonstration meet, really. You know, we all rode it in the meeting, but we'd all agreed that we wouldn't do anything silly.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, because again, it would have been a great experience, you know, if it had been done properly, sort of thing, you know, to enhance everyone's experience of everything. Yes, yeah, we would have done. But,
as it was, because I think I was leading the series, because what they did was at each venue they'd do 2 meetings. First meeting was an open meeting. The second meeting was for the championship.
Oh yeah.
So I became Middle East champion because I was leading the championship. They agreed that because of this meeting, they would let me, or it'd be that I would win the meeting, so that it kept everything level. You know, because the final would have been, I think we went to Cairo then after that, which was back to serious racing. If you can call it that on some of the.
Well, it was serious demonstration racing, so we say, you know, things like that. But no, I mean, obviously,
you're not. I mean, it was about safety, and we'd all agreed. Once you all agreed, that's fine. But you'll not get, if you're racing, whether it's for money or for whatever it might be for. So you get 4 speeder riders together, and they all want to win.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, but no, again, it must have, I say, traveling around the Middle East, you know, it must have been something of a complete different culture, you know.
Incredible! Yeah, it was. You know, it was so different to what we all knew. In fact, in the different states as well. You know, you know the Cairo, so you know, United Arab Emirates, so different to Q8. But it was great experience.
Yeah, I can imagine it was. You know, become Middle East champion. You know, rarity that anyone can do that sort of thing.
There isn't many of them.
No, exactly. Did they give you anything special then? Is it like a trophy, or is it like a nice little?
Yeah, I've got a trophy. Yeah. I've got all that. In fact, I've got, and it's. I think it's still in one piece, maybe several pieces. But I got a great big dhow. You know, dhow is their fishing boat, and that was one of the prizes I got for it. Was this dhow, which is about a metre in size. Great big thing.
Yeah, I can imagine walking onto the plane with this big old thing, thinking, "Where am I going to put this sort of thing?"
I don't know if it floats, but
no, but it's still, again, nice to win that. Nice to win that sort of thing, and like I say, rarity to become Middle East champion. You know, things like that. But also, I've got a clip from the. I think I have somewhere, or actually no, I can't find it at the moment. But I did have a clip of the Intercontinental Final runoff, which you had with Bruce, obviously for for the championship. Again, I think that was a low point scoring you scored there. Was it 13 points?
We both ended up with 12. Yeah,
I was 12.
Yeah, because it was interesting really, because this was, I'd gone through for 1980. Because I'd gone through 3 seasons in 77, 78, 79, where I'd gone out of the British final, having qualified for my first World Final in 76. So I was, I'll say, doubting myself, because the form was still, that of a rider that should be good enough to qualify for World Finals. But British Final was tripping me up, and I decided to try and do something about it, and because it was something that was becoming a bit of a mental block with me. And so I went to see a hypnotherapist, and had a couple of sessions with him, and then he basically taught me about meditation. Really was what came of that in the end. So I then started using meditation at a lot of the big meetings just to get myself into the racing state of mind that I needed to be in. And he did the trick for me. I qualified through to obviously the World Final in 1980, and won the Intercontinental Final in the run-off against Bruce. But my first race, I'd run third, and I can remember it might have been the other way around. I might have been second in my first race, but I'd got 3 points from the first 2 rides, and I can remember that when I was running in third place, thinking, I can't cope with this. This is not how the plan should be, and something changed inside of me, in my head, that tripped a switch that sort of changed my approach, I think, because I just couldn't conceive of not qualifying through to the World Final, and so I then won the rest of the races. I mean, and you can see, I think, from 2 of the races that I won from the back, that was a bit of a determined young man just trying to make his point, you know. And that's it, you know. Determination is the thing. If the situation allows it, you know, determination will get you a long way.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, again, it's that will to sort of win and succeed and everything else like that. But that's interesting to hear that you had like a hypnotherapy sort of thing, which obviously nowadays a lot of the guys do use the psychology and all that sort of thing, you know, to try and help them. So obviously that was early days, that sort of thing.
I was searching for that, and there wasn't a lot of it about, you know. But I knew that I'd already got it clear in my own head that you know, once you all become speeder riders, you're all quite good, and so you line up against four people, so three others, and you've all got the similar level of skill, physical skill, to do the job. So the difference has got to be the psychological side of it. And I always felt that when you're learning to ride, you know, these skills and ability is 80% of it. And the other 20% is making sure you stay on, probably, but the psychology side of it. And then that flips around when you then become competent at doing it. And it's, again, using an 80-20 rule, it's 80% of it is the psychology side of it. And I always, how much I benefited from it, I don't know, but that was always my approach. Fitness and the mental approach to success, which was, you know, determination and all of that. And that's what that taught me quite a lot, going to the hypnotherapist, because I then started using you know, meditation to get me into the mindset for the big meetings.
Yeah, I've just found the race which turned your meeting around in the 1918 Continental Final, which is Heat 9. Because obviously you were drawn in as number 1, so you're out like after every track grade. Remember rightly. So you've got Mitch, I think it is, off the inside there, and then you got yourself Gate 3, Scott Autry. So again, it's another sort of easy race, if anyone was an easy race, you know, things like that. But yeah, you can see the change in yourself as you come off the line here.
This was, because this is where it had to change. And obviously someone like Scott, he was a prolific gator, and you didn't pass Scott Autry very easily. But no. I think it's the next lap, isn't it, where I think I get past him on the straight. And so I wasn't stopping, clearly. there was going to be room one way or another.
Yeah, you were
but,
coming
to be
through.
fair, Scott's, the fair rider. And so there's some riders where, you can, if they're aware that you're there, they won't stick you in the fence. Other riders that you'd probably hold back a little bit just to make sure.
Yeah, but obviously, you can see that you're hungry. You want to win. I mean, whether you maybe just think of just like everyone says, like qualifying. Get through to the qualifying, and then see where you are, and then obviously you find in the shout of winning the thing.
Always that approach, really, because it's not great to win these meetings, but these aren't what it's about. Having a title is great, that's quite important. But it's about getting into a world final and winning a world final. That's what the reason why you're doing it. So,
yeah, and obviously it's nice to hear. Obviously, yourself talking about it, because then obviously people understands sort of how you went through it, the approach you all had, and all that sort of thing. Because again, that's very, very interesting. Because not a lot of people have known that sort of thing.
No, and that was that year was the start of that. Determined psychological approach for me, because I could see that's what the difference was. Because clearly ride a speedway bike, but it's about keeping yourself together and getting the best out of yourself. So otherwise, what you don't want to do is come to the end of a career and be thinking I could have done better. Although I do have moments, but hey, you still got to be sure that you've drained everything out of you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You can say, "Oh, I wish I'd done this, wish I'd done that differently." Yeah. That sort of thing. But also, England had a good year on the World Team Cup front. Managing to win the World Team Cup in Wrocław, so that was must have been great for yourself.
Yeah, it was, and that was really, Eric Bucock and Ian Thomas putting faith in me, putting me in the team, which gave me quite a boost, and probably my performance at King's Lynn that got us through to the final, to be honest, because we were a bit lackluster early in the meeting at King's Lynn, the qualifying, and but we got our act together in the end. And that was another good meeting for me, and the track gave a lot to me, and it all worked for me.
Yeah, because I think you only dropped 1 point as well that night as well.
Yeah, I brought one to Bruce, unfortunately.
Let him have that one. Yeah. But no, because I think that was also yourself, Mike Lee was in the team, John Davis was in the team, I think, and Dave Jessup.
Dave Jessup and PC, yeah.
That's him. Yeah. So again, a really strong England team.
Yeah, we were. I mean, that's right. I mean, I think that John Davis was reserve. I mean, that's how strong we were, that we had top world finalists in reserve place.
Yeah, which is a rarity at that time, because obviously a lot of countries wouldn't have had that in their arsenal, so to speak. But obviously moving on to 1981, again, as I say, managed to make the world final again at Wembley. Again, unfortunately, not quite your day, but it was a case of it must have been again nice just to ride and actually get a chance to ride at Wembley for the final.
And that was the last final, wasn't it? And yeah, great experience riding at Wembley, walking out to a full stadium. It's quite an event, and you do know you're at something special. A packed house at Wembley, and I think there was probably some seats available. There's certainly 70,000 there.
Yeah.
And they were great days. It was fantastic.
So what actually went wrong with you for that night then? Do you know anything that went sort of wrong for yourself? Did you not approach the meeting good, or?
You obviously you need the things have got to go right for you, and whether I was on the wrong bike, sometimes that's can do it, but yeah, I don't really know. It's a long time ago as well. So,
yeah.
One interesting thing, because I went with my grandson to see Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh yes, yeah.
And as Freddie Mercury's going out onto the track, onto the stage, there was the area where the pits areas was, and I recognised it straight away. And I said to my grandson, "That's where my bikes were at Wembley."
Brilliant, brilliant. Because obviously, I think we down the narrow tunnel at Wembley.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Not a lot of space.
It's like alcoves. Yeah.
Mm.
Back there,
No, brilliant. That's great to hear, because obviously, again, my generation who never saw it only on video or DVD, we get to see it now. It's nice to hear that sort of thing, because obviously, like Wembley, you see the crowd going crazy, a full house at Wembley. And it's such a shame that there was no other final after that 81 final, really.
No, it was sad that,
yeah.
Times move on, don't they?
Exactly. Surprised that Belle Vue never managed to sort of get that world final. Then after that, and it went to sort of Bradford in '85.
Yeah, and whether Belle Vue didn't want it, I think Bradford could hold more.
Okay.
Probably it was.
Yeah, because obviously Belle Vue held the World Pairs and obviously other big championship meetings like the overseas final and stuff like that there. So yeah, it was always one of my things, thinking, well, why not go to Hyde Road, because it's a fantastic track and and things like that. But maybe that was the reason why then.
There'll have been politics and stuff. I don't know. But I mean, they obviously needed a venue, and Bradford was a good venue.
Yeah, 100%. It was a good venue to have. But moving on to the '82, again, that's when Belle Vue managed to win the league. Coming from behind, if I remember rightly, from what I've read and seen and things like that, because Crady were leading the league for most of the year, weren't they?
Yeah, you probably know better than I do, but I know that because that's when Stuart Bamford had taken over, and he was desperate for us to win the league. And we were having a bit of a dodgy period as we got to the point where the make or break kind of meetings were coming up, and we dropped the ball a little bit. I think we Sheffield and Wimbledon or something, but Bammy was all for walking out, and I had to drag him back. He was unimpressed with us all. I think he gave us a big speech at some point, and I can remember going to him because I think we lost at Wimbledon, and he stormed out of the pits, and I had to go chase after him and got him to come back. I said, "You can't walk out on us now. You've got to take the rough with the smooth. He wasn't very good at." I don't think he'd been used to, because he was a stock car man, and he'd been stock car world champion. It's sometimes difficult for people who've been in control of their own destiny to suddenly be in charge of a group of people who aren't quite doing what you want them to do.
Yeah.
But he was part of our driving force as well. So as my role as captain, I kind of made sure he came back and kept the faith, which he did, in the end, and we turned it around, and we won it, which was great. But certainly good for me, because I'd had a few. That was my I've been there 10 or so years. We'd not won the championship, but in lots of knockout cups, probably won a few knockout cups finals, but it kept eluding us.
Yeah, I think it was like a knockout cup, the Northern Trophy you won a lot of, and things like that. It was just a case of that one title, which was the league, which kept falling out of your grasp a little bit. But it's like 82, you had a good team. I think it was yourself, PC. I think it Peter Carr was in the team, and Louis, like that, and people like that. It was good, strong.
There was a strong team when we all performed. It was like we were formidable, which is what you need, and that's and it's I suppose. But for champions, that's what you need. You need riders who are good, and when you need them to do their best, that they can lift up the game and do it. And that's what championship sides need. You need guys the go-to guys. That'll just lift the game and stir up the opposition a bit.
Yeah, because they can't really sort of always rely on like yourself or PC to go off and sort of win the meetings. You had to have those second strings and things like that just to pull them through.
That's what makes the difference,
Yeah, and obviously, like I say, it made a difference and you managed to win the league. But unfortunately for yourself, you didn't make the world final in '82, didn't manage to make it to LA.
That was tough. I think I must have gone out at Intercontinental somewhere.
I think it was the overseas final you went out at. I think it was at White City, because the Intercontinental final was at Vetlanda that year. So
that was I'd been a kick in the guts, because Wembley would have been great. going to America. Would be good.
Mm. Yeah, but obviously PC managed to make it and things like that. So you had a bit of interest to see how PC would have got on at that final and things like that. But yeah, so that might have been a Chris Morton sort of track to ride. Would have been LA looking at it now, sort of thing.
Maybe. I don't know much you can tell from videos, but yeah, that was a great meeting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, one or two controversial moments, and things like that. But again, moving on to 83 was a good year for yourself. You managed to win the British final. Again. Yeah, I've been losing yet, and you managed to win it again. I think on a low score as well. I think it was after
13. I think I won it after 13. Yeah. So I only needed to win my last ride to be. Well, in fact, I think it was Kenny Carter and was up against Kenny for sure. Yeah. I think Simon Wigg was in it as well. So I think Kenny gave Simon a bit of something happened. I think Simon. That was it, yeah, because Simon came off, whether it was Kenny's fault, whatever, I don't know, but he came up because I've made the start, restarted it again, so, contrary to what some people think, I could make the odd start when it mattered. So, and that was the thing, it was a bit tough for me that I'd made the start on Kenny, it was quite formidable at the time. I had to go and do it again, because it was a restart. Anyway, it worked, that was it.
Yeah. And nice to stand on the rostrum and say that you are British number one.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. But just touching on Kenny and things like that, what was he sort of like to ride with him? Was he sort of like a really sort of hard, aggressive rider like you see in the videos and things like that nowadays?
Yeah, he was a hard rider, but not. No, I wouldn't say he was dirty, but he wasn't a dirty rider, but he was hard, committed. Yeah, he didn't give up easily at all, ever. So he was a tough guy to beat, but even so, good racer. Yeah, and we had some good times in right when we met each other riding for England, so yeah, I've rode with him and I've rode against him. So.
Yeah, you had the best of both sides then, really. So, like I say, you see, you ride with him and then ride against him. So you see, I can imagine he's two different people when you ride sort of with and against him. Then.
Yeah, I don't know. Kenny was all about Kenny, So,
yeah. No, I've always wondered that because obviously all the controversy surrounds that one incident in LA and things like that. But just to know what you sort of like as a normal sort of guy with on the England side a bit more than anything.
Yeah, but I mean, there was all the hype. Because he was he was a character that could be wound up, and so the TV people did do. Gary Newborn loved him.
yeah, I know.
He was like a gift from heaven for him.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, again, it must have been a hard year for Belle Vue, obviously, to try and retain the British League in '83. Okay, it was that was the year the dominant Cradley. Where they won every meeting. I think apart from 2 meetings, they didn't win all year. Yeah. So it must have been hard to come into that thinking we could actually turn it around and win the league again.
Yeah, I would have thought we'd have fancied our chances, but I can't really remember a lot about '83 in those as far as the league goes. But obviously, yeah. Where did we finish?
I don't know. I think you might have been about fourth or something like that. I think it was. Yeah, I don't know without looking it up.
Yeah, it gets away from you, and then it becomes, it's not an achievable goal. So it slips away, doesn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, you have a dominant side like Cradley who are literally running away with the league, because they're literally, like I say, winning everything on the way there, sort of thing, Yeah. But obviously, again in '83, you managed to make it to the Northern final in Germany. Northern. Yeah, and I had Lance King on the show before saying about how the track was a speedway track in practice, and then it was a grass track on the race day.
yeah, probably. I mean, but I still got to ride it and win it, and I mean, Egon was a formidable character, and he was a known world champion. He'd won the long track, so it was in his psyche, and I think he had so much to gain from winning the world final, and he put everything he had into it, and it paid off. I suppose a bit like the Bruce in LA, you know, that it's not just another world final. Not that any world finals are ever just another world final, but for Bruce in LA, it was special, and he kind of had to win it. And Muller the same, you know. He not saying it'd be the end of the world if he didn't win it, but there's that extra little bit that makes the difference to help you win something like that. Yeah, there might have been a few things in his favour, but still got to go and do it.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't take it away from him at all.
No, because Egan was a great rider, say, on the long
track. Yeah, and what a speed
especially...
rider, to be fair. You know, it was a great achievement for him, because he wasn't, you know, you meet him at Hull or whatever, you know, in a speedway meeting, and he was, you know, he was nothing special, but meet him on long track and he whipped the pants off you. So for him to come along and beat the best speedway riders in the world, sure, on his own track and his own country, but yeah, that wasn't. It was a bit of a special thing, really.
Yeah, exactly. And how did you find the Northern Tracks? I know you scored only 7 points, but
yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a very mediocre meeting for me, really. You know, I think it was a bit flat, the track, and it was a Gators track, really. I mean, I think it was Egan proved, you know, he made the starts, but yeah, it didn't allow a lot for great racing, although it was a big track. It was a bit flat, like a lot of the German tracks were.
Yeah, which is a shame, really, because obviously, you know, if it sort of like may have a little bit of banking on it, it might have suited and actually had better racing because of it.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose, you know, that's, you know, for the world finals for me. Not that I didn't. I worked quite hard on my gating, but you're trying to. Because, you know, at league level, I could make starts against you know, most people. When you're trying to become a great gator against the best gators in the world, it's a tough call, and I never managed it. You know, it's something. If I regret anything, it's not ever being able to do that. It's not that I didn't work on it. I used to work quite hard at it, you know, but it's yeah, it was a skill I couldn't master at that level, at the highest level.
Yeah, but it's, like I say, it worked at league level, but it's that one bit, that one step that you just wasn't quite there with.
And you just need you know, you need three good starts at a world final, and if you've got the passing skill that I had, then you're in with a chance. But you can't get away with, you know, being second, third into the corner in 5 races.
Yeah, it
doesn't work.
No, it's unfortunate, but again,
not that I didn't know that. I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
But, turning it around is a whole new game.
Exactly, and also in that year in '83, you managed to win the Northern Riders Championship as well for the first time.
Yeah, that was the Northern Riders Championship. That was. I mean, it's one of those that, you know, local rider, home track, and all that. It's sort of thing you should win, and it's one of the kind of, you know, not. I say I expected to win, but you're still up against, because, you know, good riders, usually from Sheffield, Halifax or Bradford then. But you know, they were never easy to win open meetings at Belle Vue, because everybody loved riding the place. So you just had to you know, make the most of your local track knowledge.
Exactly, because I think that was also covered on TV, that meeting in '83. I think that was, and I think you managed to break the track record, I think, once or twice as well, that meeting. Yeah,
I think that might have been 80. I think that might have been. Correct me. It might have been 84. That.
Oh right, yeah. I think it was. I can't remember. It was one of those ones, but
that was. I broke the track record. I mean, it got broke 3 times that night. PC did it in the first one. Kenny did it in the second or the third one. And I thought I was in the 4th round of my first round, and I thought, just get him on here for the you know, for the track record. And I think from what the track record was, There was like 2 seconds came off.
Oh, jeez.
It was quite a lot. So I mean, I took a full setting off Kenny's time. So track was just perfect for that, for that sort of.
Yeah, for that one meeting. Yeah, which is great to hear, because obviously I think wasn't it you and Eric who ended up finishing joint track records at Hyde Ride?
Yes, because I held it, and Eric equalled it in I think whether it was 86 or 87. So yeah, the track closed with 2 track record holders. Me and Eric.
Yeah, which must sit nicely with yourself and personally to know that sort of thing.
Certainly, yeah, because Eric's a good friend, and it's something that's we can hold together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Eric's a bit cheeky. He's got 2 track records, one at Wembley, and that's the But obviously, again, it must have been great to just win like an open meeting like the Northern Riders Championship at your home track and things like that, because obviously, like you say, it makes you sort of like feel probably like you're king of the North a little bit, with that sort of title.
Yeah, and those sort of meetings, they're great. It's like there's not lots of pressure apart from the desire to win it, but they're great meetings to do and enjoy, and have a bit of fun with it, and to win them is even better.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously on to 84. Again, it's another good solid year, I think, for yourself and things like that. But you managed to finally win the BLRC. At Hyde Ride.
It eluded me a bit because I'd never really got in it. I think the previous year I'd been in it for the first time, maybe. And so that was it was a tough meeting, as they always are, because everybody used to like riding Belle Vue. And it's a runoff. 3 of us, me, myself, Eric Gunderson and Hans Niels, in a 3-man runoff. I think we all had 12 points.
Yeah.
And at the time, it was that period where tape touching was a hangable offence.
Yeah.
And Eric was struggling to come to terms with not being able to push the tapes. And he was getting there, but because I think there'd been a lot of meetings where he was getting excluded 2-3 times in a meeting, and I think he was getting frustrated. But anyway, he touched the tapes in the runoff and got excluded. So it was a 2-man runoff with me and Hans.
Yeah,
and I knew what Hans would do, because I was off the outside, and because he'd do what he would have to do, which is if he made the start, good chance he's going to make the start on me. I didn't plan on making the start, but I knew what he would do if he did do, which would he'd go straight to the dirt to try and stop me, which is what he did, and I immediately switched back and coincided him and passed him halfway around the first corner up the inside while he was trying to stop me on the outside. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So,
they got your head down and sort of just went for it.
Yeah, I was away then. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. That was good, because obviously, you say, touching on that 84 season, because there was the England USA Test series of that year, which obviously was very interesting one at Ipswich. I think you were the highest scorer. I think you were the only rider to win a race or 2 for England. I think it was in the end, because because I think that was the time when Michael Lee was like Eric, trying to get his head around the tape touching rule, because I think you had a certain Frank Ebden doing that meeting that time.
Oh, Frank, yeah. God, yeah. Yeah, if you want a meeting ruining, he's your man. Didn't he get excluded all of them for doing wheelies or something? Well,
yeah, I think it was later on that he did that sort of
wheelies,
thing. Yeah,
wheelie gate.
Yeah.
But it was the thing is that Ipswich was one of those tracks that it'd seen a few Americans, and it was their sort of place. And if we'd have to be on our mettle to beat them around there, and obviously they made mincemeat of us, didn't they?
Yeah, which is unfortunate. But again, that was a weird time with the rules change. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the rule sort of like you could touch tapes once, and you'd be fine, have a warning, and if you did it again, then you're excluded, sort of thing? Was that the kind of the rule?
Something along that, when you weren't, they were trying to stop the rolling, and I think it got fairly quickly to touch the tapes and excluded.
Oh right, okay.
It was like horrified some riders, but it needed cleaning up. It was getting a bit messy.
Yeah, because there's famous starts with Ivan, who's there, which seems like must have felt like 5 minutes going backwards and forwards.
He was a master at it, Ivan, was it? Because and when you see the 72 World Final that with him and Chizako, when neither of them stopped from the pit gate.
Yeah,
set off and to get a pair of them rolling back. So I mean, Ivan made the start. I haven't got the better of him because he was the master at the rolling, and but if he could do it, then it was great, and he used to control the refs really, because he'd be in control, he'd pushing his bike forward, pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, rolling on the tapes, coming back off it, rolling onto them, and he knew which one when he was going to go, because the referee being such, he was like, right, I can let the tapes up now, and Ivan knew that, so he did get a flyer, and quite a few people got good at that, and I think Ivan was the master. And I remember I asked Ivan if he'd come and help me at Belle Vue to do some work on my gating. Like I said, I used to work on it, and so I asked Ivan because he was local for me. So he said, "Yeah, no problem. I'll come along and help you." And we went through. This was just telling on the way his psyche was, and Ivan said. He said to me, "You've either got to be scientific about it or cheat." And my brother was a master at cheating, but Ivan was the master of both. He knew all the science about it, and if all that failed, he knew how to cheat better than anyone. Rolling, if we're calling probably a harsh word, cheating, but yeah, he was the master of rolling. And he just knew how to do it. That's why he's 6-time world champion.
Exactly. Did it really affect you at all with your starting or anything like that, touching the tapes or sorry, rolling or staying stationary? Did it really affect you?
No, because I'd kind of because I didn't have this natural gating ability. I was focused on the watching tapes and and good reactions and doing it that way. That was kind of my approach. But I mean, I'm not one to ask about gating, am I really? So, yeah, and I could see my problem was that because I don't know if our Dave would mention this, but he knew all the referees as well, and he would know how many seconds each referee would hold the tapes for. And that's, I mean, there's no way I'd master that sort of thing. And that was, and that's how you learn to. I suppose he's cheating the referee, aren't you? That's what you're doing. But and he could do it many times. They'd be pulled back now because but he used to duck under the tapes. The tapes were in the way.
Yeah.
But, and he was brilliant at that. So it's much easier from the front.
Yeah, exactly. Much easier. But then you don't get the old spectacular, the buzz that you do from coming from behind.
No, that's right. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why I maybe never mastered. I didn't really have to because I was getting my kicks at Belle Vue and other places. Where to beat someone who's clearly as good as you, or maybe even considered better than you, but be able to beat them through track craft and clever riding. Yes, I used to get a great buzz out of that. I used to love it.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a great buzz.
Following them and trying to make them do something different to what they were probably intending to do. Make them think I'm going to be going around them and then come inside them, or vice versa. And I'd stalk them, and wait for the moment.
Exactly, but also touching on a disappointment of that '84 season was the British final for yourself,
Yeah,
which is where you tumbled out with that really wet day
yeah,
at
that was.
Coventry.
I kicked myself for that. Really, I really did at the time because I don't know if you've seen any what you said. I can't remember whether it was. Well, it'd been shown when because Kenny at the time had broken his leg.
Yeah,
and was he'd done it 3 weeks earlier, and he had a special pot made for it that he could ride in. So Kenny was all geared up for doing it. It made him a bit of a hero in that we were all wusses because we didn't want to ride in this wet meeting, and there's him with a broken leg, but he'd geared himself up for it, and he was keen to go and wanted to ride, and but it wasn't fit. Really. It wasn't fit for a British final, and so the referee talked us into going out for the meet and I went out in my first ride, and I think there's a picture of me somewhere just plastered, absolutely plastered in mud, and I walked off thinking they're going to stop this. There's no way this is carrying on. Lo and behold, it carried on, and I was, by the time I'd had one rider kind of pulled out because couldn't see anything. And then I'm thinking they're going to stop this. Kept thinking, but by the time it was pretty obvious they weren't doing it, it was too late for me. And we were on great form as well at the time. But yeah, it was frustrating that because what I should have done was got myself together and just got on with it, So you can say the meeting should have been stopped, but I didn't qualify for the next round because of no one else's fault but mine. My whole approach to it was wrong. So I take the blame.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's just obviously one of those things. Again, it's just one of those meetings where it just wasn't your day, should we say, and things like that. And because of track conditions.
It was track conditions, but it's about I needed to have recognised, which I didn't do until it was too late, that this is going on. This meeting is going on no matter what happens. So get out there and get on with it. And I didn't have that discussion with myself. So.
Yeah. But I think it was, I remember off the top of my head, I think you still had a chance to qualify all the way up to sort of like your last sort of race. I think it was that you still had a chance. I think you had to win your last race. I think it was to get the last or the second to last qualifying spot, which I don't think you quite did. Obviously you didn't, but to get through. But even then you still were in with a chance because obviously, again, I think it must have been sort of like quite a high number of riders being qualified through to the overseas final and things like that.
Yes. Well, I think it was about 10 used to go through.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. But that was just frustrating. That it was unnecessary because I should have just thought about it a bit of a qualified reasonably easily, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But one obviously great thing for you that happened in '84 was this World Pairs final at Lanigo with PC. I mean, what can you sort of remember of like getting up to the final and then the final itself?
That was the week before the British final. I don't know if you know
was
that.
It?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's the irony of the whole thing is that we'd come back victorious and it all went. You're not here all very long.
No.
But, that was fantastic winning at Lanigo. It all fell into place. We understood each other how we rode, so we just knew how to work it. PC's experience was invaluable because he's been in other pairs meetings.
Yeah,
and we just played it between us, and it worked well. I was on quite good form, and PC was doing what he could do, and we were just we were the best pair that night, obviously, because there was some good riders there, but we were the best as a partnership.
Well, did you two go through the whole semi-finals and to the final together, or was it? Just the final?
We did the semi-final at Pardubice. So we did the whole lot.
Well, that's good then, because I know sometimes you can get to you go through with one person and then someone changes because they're injured or something like that. So it's obviously nice. It made it probably sweeter that you went through the whole qualifying together and then when the final at the end sort of thing.
Yes, it was. It was good to do it that way. It was great.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a bit of footage from that final. I think it's against the USA, which I think was your penultimate sort of ride to win it. I think it was this one that virtually sealed the deal, really, because I think then you faced the Italians, which were, no disrespect to the Italians, but they weren't the strongest team in the world then.
No.
But there's PC.
And see, that's what worked for me, was that so many riders missing it. So I was actually last into that corner, and then, but the inside was working really well for me. And that was it. So we had the discussion, in PC, that don't check whatever's working. You don't change it. And so we worked to our strengths.
Yeah, which was really, really good. Because obviously, at that time, both of you were known as riding sort of like the outside. You're good outside line riders, but then also both of you could also ride the inside line just as good as the outside most of the time. Yeah.
And it was so long ago here that so many of them missed on the first corner. Were missing the apex, and I was nicking quite a few places there.
Yeah, which is also good because again, like, right place, right time. That's probably the best time that you didn't have to sort of do your gating, because obviously then you could just nip past people and things like that. Then.
Yeah. And there was.
But obviously winning it with your sort of like your best mate, and things like that. Coming through the sport together must have been again a great feeling. So, I mean, it's nice to see, because obviously you see all the photos and everything of you two on the rostrum, absolutely loving it, and then, like you say, you go from hero to zero a week later, unfortunately, with the British final. Yeah,
well, that's how it was. Frustrating.
Yeah, it was a bit frustrating, but must wrap up tonight, Chris, because it's getting on a bit of time. But hopefully we come back for a part 2. Would you be interested in doing
problem.
that?
Certainly, yeah.
Awesome, because then we can just wrap up the 80 from 85 to the present day sort of thing.
Go on,
yeah, exactly. All right then. Well, thanks for everyone who's watched tonight. I'm sure you've loved having Chris on tonight. Like I say, if you good, I'm glad to hear that. Very much to hear that. But if you haven't seen it, also check out Brother Dave. That was also a good one. What a little plug there.
Right,
yeah. But if you ever want to follow us, guys, follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're on everywhere. Join us, like the Facebook pages, all the groups and that sort of thing. But thanks for tonight, Chris. Much appreciated, mate. And we'll arrange a part 2.
Okay, no problem.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.